Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're diving into a project that is just absolutely beautiful. We're going to break down the entire pattern for this handcrafted, boho-inspired crescent moon wall hanging. We'll turn some simple yarn into a stunning piece of decor for your home. So go ahead and grab your hooks and let's get started. And here it is. This is what we're aiming for. Just look at the incredible detail, the star charms, the wooden beads, and those gorgeous tassels. You know, this is the perfect project if you're a beginner who's ready for a little challenge, or really for any crocheter who just wants a relaxing and super rewarding project to work on. So here's a quick look at our game plan. We'll start off by getting all our supplies together. Then we'll get familiar with the stitches. After that, we'll actually crochet all the individual pieces. Then comes the really fun part, putting it all together, before we add those final, all-important finishing touches.
Okay, first things first. Just like with any good recipe, you've got to start with the right ingredients. So, let's get our supplies all lined up so we can have a nice, smooth crafting session without any interruptions.
Now for the fun stuff, the materials. You're going to need 3 colors of a DK or maybe a light worsted weight cotton yarn. The real key here is to pick a yarn that has great stitch definition. You'll want to avoid anything too fuzzy because all that beautiful texture is a huge part of what makes this design so special. You'll also need a 4.0mm hook, a wooden dowel, some beads, and, the usual suspects like stitch markers and a yarn needle.
All right, let's talk about the stitches. Every pattern has its own language, and this one is no different. We're going to quickly go over the abbreviations you'll see, but seriously, don't worry if you're a beginner. These are all super common stitches you'll use all the time.
Okay, so this is really important, especially for anyone watching from outside the States. This pattern uses US crochet terminology. That can make a big difference. We'll mostly be working with single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet, plus your standard increases and decreases. It's all right here for you as a quick reference. Before we actually start crocheting, there are a few key things to remember. First, the moon is worked in continuous rounds, which means a stitch marker isn't just a suggestion. It's your best friend. Seriously, use one. Also, remember this is a flat wall hanging, not a stuffed toy, so we won't be doing any stuffing. The most important thing here is to keep your tension nice and consistent. That's what will keep the moon from buckling and make sure all those gorgeous details lie perfectly flat.
And now we get to the best part, actually making stuff. Let's start bringing these pieces to life, and we're going to begin with the main event, the crescent moon itself.
So we're going to kick things off with a foundation chain of 45 stitches. For the first 9 rows, we'll use this really clever mix of different stitches, like half doubles and doubles, along with some increases. This is what builds out the wide, round body of the moon. Then, from rows 10 to 14, we'll start using decreases to create that classic, iconic inner curve of the crescent.
So once our basic crescent shape is done, it's time to add all of these gorgeous details you see right here. This is where the magic really happens, where we add the texture and all the decorative bits that make this piece so special.
Let's get into that beautiful edging. First, we'll create a really neat picot trim along the inner curve. That's just a tiny, decorative loop of stitches that adds a really delicate touch. Then, for the outer edge, we'll add a beautiful bobble border. That's a little cluster of stitches that creates a raised, kind of popcorn texture. And finally, we'll use our second yarn color to add those amazing surface crochet lines that just radiate out from the center. Now here's where you get to make a really fun choice for that outer border. You can either crochet the bobbles directly into your work for that raised, textured feel, or, and this is my favorite, you can go for a more authentic boho look by pre-threading some actual wooden beads onto your yarn and just sliding them into place as you crochet. Honestly, both options look fantastic.
Okay, on to these adorable little stars. You're going to make 5 of them using your different yarn colors. The process is pretty simple. You start with a magic ring, and then for each of the 5 points, you'll chain 8, and then work your way back down that chain with stitches that get smaller and smaller, like a double crochet, then a half double, then a single. That's what creates that perfect pointy taper.
And here is a fantastic tip straight from the designer. When you're making the points of the stars, make sure you keep your tension firm and consistent. If your stitches get too loose, the points won't be sharp and defined. They'll end up looking a little bit floppy. So keep it tight for the best looking stars.
All right, we've got all of our beautiful pieces crocheted, and now it is time for the real magic. Let's put it all together and create our finished masterpiece. We're going to work from the bottom up on this part. First, you'll attach 5 hanging cords to the bottom of the moon using a simple lark's head knot. Then, on each of those cords, you'll thread your wooden beads and knot them to keep them in place. Right below the beads, you'll securely tie on one of your star charms. And finally,
Finish it off by attaching a matching tassel to the very end of each cord.
So, to finish off the structure, we're going to secure that driftwood dowel right across the 2 top points of the crescent moon. After that, we'll create the main hanging loop with some sturdy macrame cord. Oh, and for that extra little detail you see in the photos, you can add an optional accent star right on the inner curve. Okay, we are in the home stretch now. These last finishing touches, these are the things that are going to take your project from looking handmade to looking truly professional and handcrafted.
First, you've got to weave in all those ends. I know it's not the most fun part, but it makes a huge difference. Then, I highly recommend wet blocking the moon. This really helps to open up the stitches and define that perfect crescent shape. You could even use a bit of fabric stiffener if you want a firmer result. Finally, just double-check all your knots and give those tassels a nice clean trim with sharp scissors so they're all perfectly even.
And there you have it. All that work has totally paid off. Your stunning, textured, and one-of-a-kind boho crescent moon wall hanging is complete. You should be so proud. Congratulations on creating such a beautiful piece.
So the only question left is, where are you going to hang your masterpiece? Will it go in a cozy reading nook? Maybe in a peaceful bedroom? Or right in the entryway to greet your guests? Wherever it ends up, it is absolutely going to bring a little bit of handmade magic into your space.